And hello there, everybody, and welcome to Roll with Advantage. And I'll go ahead and let Ryan take it away.
All right, hey everyone. So as you can see, we are doing something different today. We are experimenting with Roll Call Live, something that we have yet to do. Previously, we would pre-record the episodes and just release them on YouTube, but we wanted to do some more episodes that were more kind of immediate responses to what was going on with the campaign. So we're going to be experimenting with this moving forward, and things might change, but we're going to see how this one goes today. But I just wanted to talk to Joe today about the kind of general trend of the campaigns ever since we came back from our 3-month hiatus. So Joe, first question, and arguably the most important one. How you doing, buddy? You good?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I am fine and dandy. I'm vibing, having a good time. I've really enjoyed the campaigns coming back, but also on a note as well. Like, I've also just been feeling better about life in general too. Things haven't felt quite as soul crushing. Being able to get away for it all for a bit and then dive back in, I really felt like a resurgence of like, oh yes, I love doing this very much, and so that's been really nice.
Right on. And sorry, just a quick thing, just for anyone watching, if you have any questions you want me to ask Joe, please feel free to just write them in the chat, and I'll try to get to them. I'm not as used to doing this live or looking at the chat as Joe is, so if I miss it, I apologize, but I will try to get to them all. So, Joe, in general, with the campaigns having come back, what are your general feelings for both campaigns? Like, because, I mean, we've been back for... Yeah. How long have we been back for now?
It would have been right at the end of May, so a little bit, maybe 3 months about?
Like 2.5 or something like that?
3 months, yeah, right around there.
Yeah. I mean, so how are you feeling about both the campaigns? Because obviously, we've talked about this before. Like, as a DM, I imagine you kind of have an idea of how things are going to move forward, but as players, we have the agency to completely fuck up all your plans and take things in a completely different direction. So, how do you kind of feel about, like, where things are right now versus where you saw them going, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that is a great question. So, Isles, has been interesting. I'll start there. Just because of the well, I guess Salamander Coast did this too. I was gonna say because of the integration of a new player, but we had Yorick and Ajax join. So obviously when we went on break, Yorick, I think, was a little bit more in the oven, like he was something that was maybe a little bit more of an idea before jumping back in. But Ajax wasn't. Ajax, I don't think that came around until like Salamander Coast was already back. Regardless, I think that with Isles, I was feeling really good. I was really excited because not only was I ready to get to Hearthcrest and the college, but I've been very excited to get to the Astral Sea, and that's of course something that I'm still very excited for. But I think one thing that was unexpected to me from Isles in terms of like player agency and making choices and all that good stuff was your the Lorokan, Malice, Serlina Farron, Renee Markle plot that you guys had at that ball. And I just really enjoyed seeing that unfold, and it was something that reminded me as to like why the resourcefulness of players is something that's so important to this game. Because you guys changed that entire situation. And it could have gone really bad. And using your resourcefulness and your strategery, you were able to work it out in a way that was very nice. For the most part, using Thor, granted, Thor is like lightning in a bottle. Once you let him out, it's no telling what's going to happen. But yeah.
I just to jump in real quick, I love the fact that like the perception of Thor between SC and Isles is so completely radically different.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like vastly. To SC, Thor is like the Doom bringer, like he's Doom guy. And like to Isles, we're just like, man, this guy's awesome. Like, he's doing everything he can to help. He was beating himself up when, like, he didn't balefire Laura Khan. Like, he feels bad, but, like, he's on our side. Like, Thor's a bro. Like, York would go get drinks with Thor. Like, hell yeah. Like, he'll even pay. Whereas SC's like, they hear thunder in the sky, and they're like, "Is it him? Oh my god, is he fucking here?
Get in the
Is he
bunker.
here?"
Get in the bunker right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just love that perception. I think is a very important thing, and so to see how these two different groups see the same character so radically differently, like I think that's just really well done on your part in terms of just narrative storytelling. Because especially with Odin, who, is an antagonist and could even slide into that villain territory depending on like how you're looking at him. But like Thor, the Odinson family is like completely against the Dark One. So in that way, they're, and I'm putting this in heavy air quotes, allies. But that doesn't mean they're good people necessarily.
Yeah, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yeah, exactly. And that's something that has been really interesting to see, but that's the interesting part about that is like that situation with Odin and Thor for SC, for how Odin feels about them. Like at the end of the day, if Magni and Modi wouldn't have been killed by the party, I think that we could have spent more time in Fjardeleth, honestly. Because, Thor shows up right after the two of them died, a few moments after. So maybe if combat could have gone a little bit longer, if maybe they could have been, knocked unconscious, but why would they be? Cecily was just murdered. That whole thing was very interesting because it really has like a paradigm shift for how things work in the campaign from that point on. So that was something. But that's SC, which has been really interesting. Isles I was very excited to get for the Astral Sea stuff, and specifically the college. That's the one thing that I did want to say is like, I was so excited to get to Hearthcrest and the college because of the high fantasy, high magic, over the top everything that Hearthcrest is. Like Hearthcrest is probably the most like objectively modern city in Illica. Just because, it was a city that was founded, some 400 years ago. So it doesn't have all the precursors that a city like Verdalca would have that's been around for, like 1,000 years. I mean, like if you look around like what downtown London, or somewhere that has been around for a while, it's not meant for modern conveniences and modern innovations. And that's exactly what I wanted to achieve with Hearthcrest. Like if you had a place that had all of the advancements that were there at that point, what would they be planning for? And doing that was fun. Like pretty much having like stoplights and street signs and sidewalks and big wide like 4-lane roads for carts to go back and forth, this booming commerce that pretty much makes Hearthcrest like, like downtown New York. Like I love that. I think that is so cool. And the college itself, just having the Tatiana Tower, I think was one of the things that I was most excited for coming back, just because it's like, yeah, you just have like pocket dimensions for rooms, and you could like before you walk in, you can just think about how you want it to be decorated. And that's your room. Like you just have like a Mordenkainen's magnificent mansion that you're pretty much like in charge of in this tower when you're given a room by, Alfred. At least in terms of locations to travel to. That's what I was excited for, right? Because I'm always excited for like world building stuff and lore. Like, oh yeah, dude, give it to me. I'm always ready to divulge more of that. But I was also very excited for a lot of character stuff coming up within those moments, related to Twig and learning more about her house, and learning more about how to like take apart this darkness that was beginning to encroach on her home, and like how do you deal with that? That was really exciting. Also with Lila, I was very excited to get into Lila's astral stuff, and because it was something you and I had talked about quite frequently over that break, I was also excited to integrate Yorick and see how he would add to the party in different ways. So there was a lot going on in Isles that I was just like, ooh, yeah, there was a lot to chew on, which I was happy about. I feel like there'd be nothing worse than to come back to a campaign where there's like nothing going on and you're like, well, I guess we're just starting over. I guess we're just starting from the bottom.
I mean, personally, if I can interject for a second, I think it's really
please.
cool just because, like, I really enjoy how narratively the two campaigns were very similar in terms of like where they came back versus like where they're going felt like so radically different in a way, because like I feel like Isles started off with like this big kind of like multi-tiered fight where we had like 3 sessions in a row, if not 4, but I think it was in 3, of like dealing with the Crypt of Markle. And like Yorick's kind of like introduction. I know there was like a session or 2 before that, but more or less in terms of like the big set piece, because they had like the battle against the druids whose name I cannot remember right now.
It was something very, very, very American and modern.
Steven. I don't think it was Steven, but something like that.
No, it was something wild. Adam, I think. You know?
Something like that. But
like, it's a name you definitely don't think of for an archdruid.
Yeah. But like, I thought it was cool that like Isles kind of like got right into like these like multiple sessions of like kind of like big combats, and now we've had a bunch of session of kind of going into like more of like the political kind of like nuance and like especially like as of late, just like talking to people and kind of establishing their connections and figuring out like what to do next. Whereas Isles, I felt like they Isles SC, I feel like they had the everything with like the creator and that village, and then I feel like they've had a lot of political talk with Bianca and her family, and now they're in the multi-episode Siege of the City type stuff. Yeah, and like I think it's cool how like they've like I don't know which I didn't know like which direction the campaigns were going. Like I kind of knew what their overall goals were, but in terms of like specifics, like man, didn't see this coming, for either of them. And so I think it's just really well done on your part. Just like how much has been accomplished and how kind of organic and natural it feels. Like I love that.
No, yeah, and that's a perfect segue into SC, and the things that I was really excited about is like this whole Ivana Damaris thing. I have been sitting on since like Jesus Christ, like session 1 pretty much. Like I always knew.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I always knew that. Well, because that's the question you need to ask, right? You're like, why is Bianca's soul not her own? Why is she a tiefling? And she had this person in her backstory, Rolius. And Rolius was the person who helped her become a blood hunter. And I'm like, well, why would somebody, for one, in this world, and the way that I've created, in Bella Clara specifically, the predisposition towards tieflings, why would somebody go out of their way to help a tiefling? Okay. But then help a tiefling become a blood hunter, which is something that is like not like a forbidden or like an illegal thing to do, but it's something that is it's got a lot of taboos that you're tapping into in any society, minus some select groups of people in like Jormungandry. Like most people are like, blood magic? No, thank you. So like, why are they doing that? And it's like, okay, so obviously Bianca's soul is owned by some type of fiend. What's that fiend doing, right? Okay, why would that? Oh, okay, got it. And this, I had this, and this is something that's definitely been given away in game because I double checked with Felicity that this before I just started talking about it some time ago. It's like I knew that all Isin wanted, right? Who's Rolius, right? The person who did this. The reason they did this is because they just wanted a worthy foe. They wanted somebody to fight them and challenge them and really make them feel like they earned a fight, because so many opponents for Isin are just easy, right? They are a killing machine. They are just sort of this thing that the Dark One can point in a direction and they just decimate. And so Isin was like, I want to be challenged. And so, Isin does all these things for Bianca in the beginning. Like, oh, hey, here's this book. Oh, hey, let's become a blood hunter. Hey, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. But then Isin is this 2 halves, right? Half demon, half devil. So sometimes they're very lawful, very reserved. But then sometimes they're like, I think of it like a Bruce Banner, Incredible Hulk situation. Where like the demon Isin is a vicious monster. That just tears things apart. And then Devil Isin is like, okay, Let me scheme. Yes. And so we have that. And then it's like, okay, well, but why is her soul owned? Okay.
Right.
Why? And then that why, right? I already had the answer. I had to answer the why of like, why did this person help her become a blood hunter? Okay, got it. But then like, why was her soul owned by Issen in the first place? Why? And then I was like, oh, you know what? Actually, it'd be pretty cool because I'm a sucker for the the Aragorn trope.
Sure.
I think that'd be pretty cool for Bianca, because I've always loved having Felicity at the table as a player, and I know that she is a big fan of like big things for her characters, like, I mean, Elowen being the mother of mountains now, and having Bianca be able to, be after the campaigns are over, provided Bianca, makes it through to the end, being the queen of this entire nation is just something that is just really cool, and I know that she would enjoy that a lot. And I hope those are still things she likes. So Bianca or Felicity, if you're listening, I hope that's still something you're enjoying. But yeah, so the entire political intrigue part in two halves in Salamander Coast, I was so excited, so ready to get to. These big action-packed set pieces of defending a city from a siege, or like when they get all of their allies together and march on Damara's Keep. That's so fucking sick. Oh, I'm so excited. Let's go. Like, I am equally as excited about that as I am the Astral Sea Treasure Island, Treasure Planet stuff.
Yeah.
For Isles. Like,
we love.
Yeah, we do love that. And I'm just so excited to get there. Oh my god. Like, please, tomorrow, let's just all not stop playing so that way we can get to those two things.
Hell yeah. Since you brought it up, and we're not going to spend too long on this, because I personally don't really want you to address this, but I mean, it's interesting because we're learning about, like, why Bianca was taken, and I'm also very excited to learn, like, what's Yorick's deal with that, especially given his particular relationship with Aventahal and how different it is from Bianca and Issen,
Oh, for sure.
So, I'm very curious, because I know, like, when I brought up Yorick as a character, and I don't know if it's changed, and you can comment if it's changed, but again, I obviously want to figure it out in-game. But I remember very early on, you were like, yeah, I think I know why Yorick's soul was taken. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I have an idea for that. So, I'm very curious, just given with how different they are, just how, the differences between, like, Bianca and Yorick could be, or how similar they are, or I don't know. I'm just excited to learn about that, because obviously, I'm partial to Yorick. I think he's a fun guy.
That's good. You should feel that way about your character.
Yeah, he all right. All right.
It'd be really bad if you were playing and you're like, yeah, I mean, he's kind of trash, but I'll grow to like him. That wouldn't
he's
be very good.
Nalfian, but he's all right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine.
Yeah. But no, I'm very excited to get there too, and obviously that's one of the hard parts about integrating a player this far into a campaign is like, obviously, I don't want to give away too much too soon, but also I need to be conscious for, how much is happening and what's happening when. And so when that stuff does come up, I'm very, very excited to get to it, because I think that it will, I always try to make sure that whenever I'm doing things, they're additive to the, to the story, and they're stacking on to pre-established things, especially nowadays, as we get to sort of I think once Bianca retakes the keep, once the runaways retake the keep and the Isles crew gets into the Astral Sea and saves Emerald, like, that's the official, like, I want to say that's the halfway point, and it's like halfway point. I'd say that's probably like not even halfway. Those two things are probably like the end of Act 3 in a 5-act play,
Okay.
Like, that's where the thing where, like, okay, these were the two big hurdles, and now this is when shit gets real after these two things, as if it's not already. But like, at that point, each party will be like level 13, you know?
Right.
So it's gonna be a big deal. And it's gonna be a lot of stuff happening, you know. And I'm
Yeah,
very excited to
absolutely.
get there. And I'm very excited to see how you feel about your situation when eventually it is revealed.
If I may ask, I have a curiosity question. And obviously, I'm not going to hold you to it. I'm just kind of curious as to what you're thinking on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because in terms of getting to the Astral Sea, I feel like we still have a lot to do in Isles before that happens. Because obviously, we have like the Kings and Castles tournament, which we know will be like a session, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Nalfian's tournament as well. We have we need to talk to Aaron because this is something I was confused about. Like, because I remember you mentioned like offhand, like, oh, Isles needs to get the rest of those pieces in order to like safely travel the Astral Sea.
Correct. Yeah.
But do Isles themselves know that? I can't remember if that's something we know or if you just told us, but like it hasn't been revealed in game. I'm getting my streams crossed.
If not, it's Evrand will be showing up after the tourney. Like both tourneys are done.
Right.
And I thought maybe King Markle had said that, but if he didn't, Evrand would say that.
Yeah, he may have. I just don't remember because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I say obviously when that could be completely wrong. But like going to Wheat Hill and the tower, I imagine getting those pieces will be on the easier side than going to the island of House Markle that we can only really access with the airship because any other means of travel gets like destroyed when they approach.
Yeah.
And like I imagine like that's not going to be like a 30-minute like all right, get in, get out, we're done, you know? Like I imagine that's going to be a whole thing cuz it's the island of, you know, the lost island of House Markle. Like that's not a small thing.
Yeah.
So,
we'll really just have to see cuz it could be it really just depends how you go about it, you know? If you here's the thing about that, you know? So for one, those other two, like that's going to be like once you get the airship, it's like, okay, you get them. Like,
right.
You find the pieces, you've got them. Like you fly to Wheat Hill, it takes you 2 hours. You go to the tower, you find it, like you're good, you got them.
Because I mean, we even know the obstacles to look out for. Like we made her tell us everything, so
Exactly.
there really should be no surprises.
Yeah, exactly.
So that makes sense
because it's such a big obstacle to get the last piece. You could very easily just try and send in one person, you know, with like a cloak of invisibility and a lockpick set, and try and hope that they don't get caught.
A lockpick set.
Yeah. And
wow.
Maybe you can do it in a half an hour. But if that one person gets busted, I'm sorry, whoever character that is, they're dead. You know?
Yeah, that seems fair.
Unless they do some weird shit, you know?
As this party tends to do.
So yeah, yeah. So, you know, there's always that. But I'm very excited to get there. And like I said, I'm pretty sure King Markle said that, but he could have not. And if not, Evrand will say it when he shows up. Evrand will make a very big deal about, we need to do this as safe as possible because this shit is dangerous, guys.
Yeah. Alright. So, quick side note real quick. So, wanted to focus on Yorick and Ajax, the newest additions to the campaign. So,
true.
For you, what was kind of the different process of kind of integrating these two characters? Because I feel like they were integrated very differently from one another. And I really liked them both, but I liked that there were two very different approaches. So just like for you, as a DM, especially in stories that are like this old or this long, or however you want to say it, like when you're this kind of like, air quotes, late in the game, which I know we're like halfway through the campaign, so still a lot to go, but like, what's your kind of thought process when you think about like, okay, how can I get these people integrated? Like, what was your approach on that? Because I know you're very hands-on with your players in terms of like figuring out kind of what we want as well. But what are kind of like the main things you do? Like, you know, advice for your fellow DMs listening out there. What would you tell them?
Yeah, so I think that it is an interesting scenario with the games being, you know, streamed and all that good stuff, because I think that I figured out a pretty good way to integrate people into into a campaign. Sorry, I had to move my mic there and didn't want it to shriek.
You're good.
To integrate people into a campaign. So, my one piece of advice, I suppose, and the thing that I did is to try and make sure that when that character comes in, they have plenty of connections, either to the party or to the party's allies. Excuse me, and make sure that those are either immediately apparent, or it's immediately apparent that they're on the same side. Right? So with Ajax, that was him fighting against devils with Keothi, right? And in Keothi's point 5, in Ajax's point 5, meeting Keothi and talking to Keothi. And then for Yorick, that was, he came there and he was fighting the undead creatures, same as them. And in his point 5, he met Professor Alonre, which the party knows, specifically Lila. Alonre is definitely a good guy. Like, there is no doubt in her mind that he is one, and he's on their side, right? So you immediately, right, even if it's meta-wise, you're validating that this character is a good guy, right?
Right.
And then on top of that, just being like, like, what do your characters, what does the player want to get out of it, right? Because one of the things, Ryan, you were really excited for was Eventahala and the Wild Hunt, to see those two things kind of come to life in your point 5.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, right? Eventahala and the Wild Hunt, especially in that beginning part, they played such a big part in it. And I tried to do them as much justice as I could in those moments. Because I know how much you care about those technically 4 characters.
Which you did, by the way, in case you were still worried about that at all. You absolutely nailed that.
I appreciate it. I know the Wild Hunt was a lot of fun to play, and so was Eventahala. So I'm excited for both things to come up again.
Yeah.
And so that's what you really wanted, and you wanted you wanted Yorick to be able to be a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit more fun. So I wanted to give you moments in your point 5 where things could be a little silly, so like you and Lawrence showing up in Alonre's pocket dimension.
That was great.
Yeah, like doing that just felt right, but then also allowing Yorick to highlight the kinder side of him, by saving that traveling merchant, and also still being able to be, badass with a mace and being able to fight 2 flaming skeleton boys all by himself and fucking rinse them,
Hell yeah.
So that was that, right? That's what you wanted. Because, like, I think that we've been playing long enough that I know generally what you want to achieve as a player, right? You want a lot of emotional depth to conversations you have and connections you make, but you also want to feel like a fucking badass when you're using your weapons and doing your things. True. So I try to give you opportunities to do both of those things. And obviously the emotional depth is a little hard to achieve in a 0.5, so let's focus on the lore things and the NPCs you're really excited about, and then the fucking combat shit, and like we'll just buckle down on that for the 0.5. Mm-hmm. That was Yorick. But you and John are different players. You have different wants and desires. Aside from one thing, both of you want to feel like a badass, except the way Yorick fights and the way Ajax fights, very different. Because John came to me and he was like, I want Ajax to be kind of like Dark Friend Batman. Like, I want him to hunt Dark Friends. But he's like Batman. And I was like, okay, all right, well, let's figure it out. So, he wanted to be able to be a barbarian that was not stupid, that he was wise, that he could figure things out and he could do things. And he was really good at killing Dark Friends. So it's like, okay, that's what he wants to be good at. So let me let him do that in the 0.5. And John wrote tragedy into his backstory. So I was like, okay, well, let's highlight that in the 0.5. And so I would say, right, just to summarize what you should do in a 0.5 or integrating a new character is let that person feel super good about their character before they start playing, whether it be in the conversations they have with characters, highlighting the really cool things about their backstory, or just making them feel cool, like that they deserve to be part of this party regardless of what level they are, nothing is more of a power trip in D&D, at least in my opinion, because of how much I hate traveling. Nothing's more of a power trip than teleporting across the map, which is what, which is what Yorick did, like just pop, 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 teleported all over the place. And, so it's like Yorick's important. The teleportation magic is, even though it's more widely available, it's still not something super common. So it's still something that's used by people who are very powerful that got to get place to place really easy. And
you don't send your classic grocery bag boy across the world through teleportation.
No, you don't. And then with Ajax, it's like, well, he wants to come across as somebody super strong and super mindful and tactical. Well, okay, so let's let him have just this sort of theater of the mind camp of dark friends that he just needs to take down, right? With stealth, like you're playing like an Arkham game, just hanging from treetops and fucking slinging them and hitting them and knocking them out and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
I mean, I think it's just I think it speaks to the strength of the players that you have, that I feel like for campaigns that run this long, sometimes it's always a little nerve-wracking to kind of, add another ingredient into the pot, because you're like, oh, but this tastes so good. Do we need more? Do we need to change it? I don't know. And now, listening to SC, and obviously, again, I'm biased because I'm playing in Isles, but I feel like now those parties wouldn't be the same with those characters gone. It feels like they've already become so well integrated and have established a relationship so quickly that it's man, if they were just to be gone, that would just be weird now, I mean, not just because they're gone, but just because you would feel that something's missing. Not
for sure.
Okay, well, they still feel like a guest. They feel like they're part of the game still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's because there's a big difference, where I feel like even when Yorick was around at his second or third session, he felt so integral to the group and to what they were trying to do, and so important, they wouldn't have succeeded if he wasn't there because of the whole crypt and all the thing where he got to show his strength immediately, versus something and obviously I love Felicity and I love Evrand and I loved Adina, but Adina was just an NPC that was played by another person. Where sure, they were important and they were kind and we loved them, but the party isn't missing something without Adina there. So I completely agree. You never want a player character to feel like they're just an NPC. Right? You want to make sure that they're always feeling like they are the bomb,
Yeah.
The good shit, so to speak.
All right, so I have a question. But as always, since this is story related, you have the 100% right to not answer and just say, "No, I'm not going to do that, Ryan." Yep, you can always do that. I know I don't need to tell you that because, in terms of how this works, I'm your employee, if anything. But I'm just letting you know I understand that. Hey.
Okay.
But anyways, so I've been noticing, and this is something that I've been thinking about just because I think it'd be rad, but there's been a lot of talk about Malice. Obviously because of all the 13, she's the most closely related to but
literally related.
Yeah, literally. But obviously, but Lila has her relationship with Finch, but it's not the same thing as what Malice is with Nalfian. And Malice has been playing a weird game ever since she's been introduced.
Yeah,
because obviously everything she did with Nalfian in the Underdark, that's messed up. That's fucked classic. Up, yeah. 13 Forsaken, bullshit that they do. She's evil. We didn't need to be convinced of that. But,
yes.
But ever since then, what she's been doing in the campaign has been very interesting. Because obviously, she showed up in Bromsgrove, to the other 13 not realizing she would be there. Because who all was there? It was Parido, Clementine, Finch. Was there anyone else there, or was it just the three of them?
Isin was there. So those are the only... there were only the 3 members of the 13.
Right.
Malice was the 4th.
Right, and when she showed up, obviously Parido was like, "Bitch, what are you doing here?
The fuck are you? This isn't your post? Get out of here!"
Yeah, this is my area. What are you doing? But Yeah, so obviously that raised an eyebrow.
Correct.
And then with her, and then she obviously made a deal with the Runaways. That, I mean, I'm guessing the other 13 don't know about that, because how could they? But again, you don't need to answer that. But you know, obviously she's been helping them with like their own things, and now the most recent thing with her appearing at the party, and we've kind of seen her interaction with Laura Khan and more with Parido, where obviously I personally feel like the walls are kind of starting to close in on Malice. Not in terms of like her doom is near, but I think in terms of how everyone perceives her, I think the act that she's been having for a long time is starting to really crumble, and crumble a lot faster. And so I guess my question is, I feel like you've been setting up a lot of clues that could we see some infighting among the 13 here soon?
Listen, I think that in order to become a Forsaken, and to swear yourself to something that will inevitably lead to the destruction of all things, including yourself, whether you acknowledge that or not, there needs to be something deeply wrong with you. There needs to be something that is incredibly narcissistic about yourself, to think that you're important enough to either make it, or something so incredibly broken about yourself to think that it doesn't matter. And so when you get a whole bunch of nihilists and narcissists in a room together, and you make them some of the most powerful people in the multiverse, I think that it's very likely that they could disagree on things, and when they get into fights, it's not, you know, just like a broken table in a bar. It is, you know, an entire village is just off the map now. Yeah, it's just flat, you know, ash. So I think that it's very possible that it could happen. I think that for it to happen in a productive way, I think the party, I think that they could maybe do some things. I think that they could try and pit the Forsaken against each other. That's not out of the equation. You just gotta be careful with where you're putting your pieces and how you're gonna direct that energy. So, but it's totally possible. Totally.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And this is just a This is just a curiosity question, because again, like all the 13 kind of have to work together. And obviously, I don't imagine any of them are buddy-buddy by any means. Like, I don't think any of them are going to plays together and just hanging out.
Yeah.
But do you imagine there are, like, which Forsaken do you actually see kind of getting along the most, and which Forsaken do you see arguing amongst themselves the most?
That's a really good question. Arguing the most, I think that, well, I guess there's a difference between like arguing and just
having bad vibes. Like, you know, it doesn't need to be arguing, but just, it's like, I don't like her, or I don't like him, you know? Just,
yeah,
who do you kind of foresee? Because I have my own ideas, but I want to hear what you're kind of thinking.
Yeah, so I think that, man, the worst part is, you know, the funny part is the most normal person is probably Cassius. In terms
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, in terms of the person that, well, because, you know, he's probably one of the only Forsaken that has spent so long around people in such a consistent manner. You know, Parido was in Bromsgrove for, 5 years?
Yeah.
Cassius has been, quote-unquote, teaching at the College of Hearthcrest ever since he was a, quote-unquote, young man, right? He's ageless, right? Yeah, he can't die from old age. But, you know, since he arrived when he was in his, 20s and to now his, like, mid to late, 30 years almost, he's been teaching people, teaching students. And, you know, he can't be fucking, despondent. He can't be awful that entire time, or else he would have got fired, right? And then his cover's blown. So he's had to kind of, like, alter his personality. And then what happens when you play a character for so long? You know, you can be the shitty professor, but, like, as an educator, it's weird. You know, you can be totally disenfranchised with your job. But there could be one student that you could just be like, wow, this student is actually talented, and I admire that a lot. And then you're like, wait, shit, no, I can't feel that. No, stop. So I think that Cassius is probably the most normal and, like, the one that, people could be like, yeah, let's go get a drink, bud. And he'd be like, all right. You know, begrudgingly.
That's the way you said that.
Let's see. Most unsettling person that nobody wants to hang around with is their name is no longer it, because John and I we talked a little bit, but their name is Everyone now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Everyone, which is the sort of astral sorcerer, changeling shapeshifter, Doomahickey. That's probably one that none of the Forsaken like. Because the thing with him is he copies you and he mimics your powers, you know? And so none of the Forsaken want to be around him because they don't like feeling like their thing is being treaded upon, you know?
Sure.
So I think that there's that. Morchella just has a whole bunch of bugs around her, so that's kind of gross. But you know, honestly, most of these people are pretty unlikable.
True.
Clementine is a child and she's insane, so that doesn't bode well for anybody, you know. But yeah, I'd probably say that. I'd probably say most likable would be Cassius, and least likable is Everyone. Which is funny. All of them are pretty low on a list of likability. Like we're talking
for sure.
We're talking 1s through 3s here on a scale of 1 to 10.
Right.
Cassius is just like a 3.2, you know?
It's funny because obviously, like, at the end of the day, you know, you get final calls like the DM, but you know, we like to hypothesize about our characters. But like Kayla and I have long agreed that like Malice and Pareto like despise each other.
Oh, definitely.
Because it's always been like our headcanon that like Pareto probably killed like a lot of her sons like back when he was a servant of the light, and she just kind of never got over it. And I just like to imagine that he just rubs it in her face like every time they have a disagreement, you know?
Yeah.
I could actually really see just because they were in communication, I could actually see Loricon and Pareto, again, not liking each other but getting along. I feel like they kind of have a similar mindset in terms of just how they function and operate, and obviously they both don't like Malice. Like, what's there to, you know, bond over more than that?
Yeah, hate is one of the quickest bonding agents in terms of people.
Yo, you hate Malice? I hate Malice. Yo!
It's the scene from Step Brothers. Like, did we just become best friends?
Yeah, like, this guy's got amazing taste. The people he hates. That's amazing.
Oh, God. It's so funny.
Man. I just want more of the 13. Like, I feel like we're getting into that point that I love them. I want to see what they're doing when they're not around the party. I love hearing about their shenanigans.
Oh my God, me too. I'm very excited for more of them to come up. It's just one of those things that you gotta...
Oh, yeah, no. If they show up in every session, then they become, you know, like...
Yeah.
Well, then they stop becoming a threat. Like, I love how really, like, you know, the only, like... I'm probably forgetting something, because of course I am. But, you know, like, the only times that we've been kind of, like, fighting the 13 have been very, like, they've been non-traditional combats. Because I would say we didn't even fight Pareto. That was more of a skill challenge of don't fucking die.
Yeah.
Like, they were still winning that fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was him just taking shots and just making it very clear, you're in my fucking city. Like, watch yourself. And then, like, there was, the battle with like Finch, but even that was more of like trying to stop him from opening up the seal on I can't remember. Oh my gosh, I'm so good at remembering Gemma's 13's name.
Oh,
Mesnin Kelnos.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was playing Jedi Fallen Order, and so I was thinking about Terran Malicos, because like, I love that boss, and I was like, that's not the name, that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not the name, but yeah.
You can see they're similar, though, but no, Mesnin Kelnos.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I had a question about that.
Yeah.
Because, like, we know it takes, like, and I might be getting my memory wrong, because that episode was a long time ago, but, like, it took like, a level of dark energy and also, like, holy, like, kind of light, radiant energy in order to break the seals, right? Because I remember, like, Emerald shot something, and Finch basically redirected it at the seal to open it. So here's my question. Obviously, Finch, as smart as he is, he can't play like 4D chess and like accurately predict what everyone's going to be doing at that day and know that spell is going to come at him to redirect it.
Yeah.
My question is that why Lila was there? Was he planning on using her and her magic to open that seal for him?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, exactly.
I've always suspected that, but I wasn't sure if that ever came up in game of like that was actually something he wanted to do or not. I couldn't remember.
The thing is, Emeril showing up was the best thing that could have happened, because how much divine magic from someone like Lila would it have taken to get that thing open, And that's a lot of duress he's subjecting himself to. But Emeril showing up, oh my God, made his day.
Like you just got your skeleton key right there.
Oh, yep, exactly. It's like this is the guy. This is the guy. We're ready. We're ready. Yeah. No, yeah, that's exactly what it was, right? He knew that Lila was very talented as a divine she's an arcana, like arcane domain. She's right, a very divine mage.
Right.
And so he was like, this would do. It's not the best, but where she wants to go is where I know the rift is. And okay, I'm putting myself on this mission and I'm going there. I'm going to finally be able to achieve what I've been wanting to achieve. And free one of the 13.
Oh. I just love when there's like those like reasons for why things happen, and like they don't necessarily need to be explained, but like the more you think about it, you're just like, oh my God, like that's why that happened. Because obviously like Finch's power is limited, but I mean he might have been able to make an argument for like, well, why should Lila even go? Like it's super dangerous. Like that's your daughter. Is that really like where you want her to be? Like what if she gets kidnapped and used against you? Like obviously like it might have taken more than that because Lila's very capable. But yeah. I was like, why was Lila there besides just, well, she needed to be for the story? Because like that's not the type of storyteller you are. You don't like that being the reason that things happen. Sometimes things need to happen, and like we all get that because that's just stories, But like I think that one of your strengths is making it very clear that like, does this seem convenient? Yeah, maybe it does, but there's a reason that it's still happening that can be explained and can be rationalized in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I always try to, like you said, I always try to make sure that that's something that's going on, because there's nothing worse than just feeling like something is happening specifically for plot only. Like, yeah. I understand, like, plot can be like a B or a C reason, as to why something's happening, but you can throw a little something extra in there just to spice it up, just a little bit extra, just to make it so it's not only to serve the plot. Because nothing cheapens something more than just like, well, it's got to happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I once was in a game where the DM was like, all right, well, and for story reasons, they get away.
Oh my God.
And they just delivered it so nonchalantly.
No.
That I was like, wait, you're not even going to like narratively create like a visual storytelling where like at least it's like cool? Like, you're not even going to make it cool? You're just going to say they get away? That's some bullshit.
God. Yeah, that is insane to me.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes you get hit with a question you're just not expecting, and you just kind of have to roll with it, and, like, fair enough.
Yeah, like, but, like, oh my God, a little more spice would be nice,
Yeah, just, like, add some flavor there. Come on, man. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, now I'm just thinking about Yorick's point 5, when Yorick was just like, oh, you're a professor, what do you teach? And you just, like, completely froze. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry to, like, catch you off guard with that.
Oh, my God.
I really didn't mean to. I was like, okay, my bad.
I had totally forgotten, because that's the thing with, like, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to move to Legend Keeper, is because I got so tired of, like, my notes being in so many different places, spread out all over the place. And so when you asked me that, I was like, I wrote this down somewhere. I don't know if it was in Google Docs, if it was in this Google Doc, or if it was somewhere else, if it was on Foundry, or if it was in World Anvil, or maybe it was in OneNote. Like I can't control F all of those places at once. So like,
no.
And you know, that was one of those things where it's like, you didn't care. Obviously, it's not like you were like, wow, Joe. Look at this guy.
Yorick was just trying to be polite. Like, I didn't care what the answer was. I was like, okay, we're just meeting this guy and then I'm leaving. But I was like, Yorick's a curious dude. What do you teach, man?
But then that was the issue, is like, I had said before, because if I hadn't said before, I wouldn't have cared. I was like, oh, abjuration, you know? Oh, cool, all right. But I knew that I had said something before, and I was like, ugh. And then Felicity in the chat was like, illusion, it was illusion. You don't remember that? It was illusion. I taught illusion.
Thank you.
I teach illusion magic. Yeah, I forgot for a second. Oh my gosh. No, that was a lot of fun.
So I was in a it was a fairly short-lived campaign, but it was very fun. It was like basically like very like Egyptian themed. It was very cool.
Yeah.
And we had a guy who, he was a work friend, and it was his first time ever playing D&D, like for real. And so, you know, we wanted him to have a good time. And so he comes in, like he has his character all made, and like he had done some research, and I was like, oh, this seems like a cool character idea. Like I like it, you know? And it was funny because we were all in this tavern, and he comes in and he makes his way straight for us, and he was like, well, looks like you guys aren't from around here. And I just looked at him and I was like, oh, really? Like, what makes you say that? And the kid just froze. He didn't come up with a reason why it didn't look like we didn't belong. And he just completely panicked. I mean, he ended up recovering, but I ended up talking to him later, and I was like, dude, I would have accepted whatever answer you said. I just wanted to know what made us stand out. He was like, I didn't think that far ahead.
Yeah, that's the... Oh, God, that is the funniest shit as a DM. Where you do, like, all of your prep work, right? You get it all done, you looking at it, you're like, yeah, I'm reading over this. This looks fucking good. I love this. And then the session starts, and you're like, shit, I didn't write anything down for this part. Fuck, no. Like, man. That happened in SC literally last week at the start of the session. All I wrote down... and I can, because I did it in Legend Keeper. You know, I was so stoked with like everything that I'd done in Legend Keeper. I'm like, oh my god, these notes look so good for the defense of Periton. And let's see where it is. Story, so session notes. Here we go. Periton flowchart. Literally for that beginning part, where like Cecily and Keothi and Suni are like attacked by those devils, and like the forest was on fire, and they had to defend it, and they had to extinguish it. All I said was, Rangers will assist getting them to their next location, but Grove is attacked. There will be fire-based devils to burn away trees. And I didn't write down anything more than that. And when I read through it, I was like, yeah, that's good enough. But then when I went to go into the session, like right as we were going live, I was like, that is not good enough. Why did I write only that? You have so much more room to write notes, Joe. Write more. Help me, past Joe. Help me. And... Past Joe is like, I'm in the future now. I can't help you.
Past Joe can be an asshole sometimes.
Oh my god. Past Joe is literally my worst enemy with every aspect of my life.
I think we all feel that way about past selves.
Past Joe is my dark one. He really
is that a hint? Add that to the board. Past Joe is my dark one.
That's why Trouble's on my shoulder in this art, is because that's the aspect of the dark one feeding itself into me. Yeah.
Are you gonna get like a white bird on your other shoulder to balance it out at some point?
Yeah, get a bird and get a dove and a cat.
We love our symmetry.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah.
Man.
So silly.
So I had a curiosity question, because I mean, like, I like the art of storytelling. Like, you know me, like, as much as I love combat in D&D, but like I love the role play, I love the story. And I know there's themes for like the overall, I'm just gonna say, story of Illica. But like, what would you say if you had to kind of narrow down the themes to like Salamander Coast versus Isles? Like, obviously they're dealing with very similar things, but if you had to describe like thematically what are the two differences like between the campaigns, what stands to make them unique, what do you think you would say?
Oh, man. Okay. That is a wonderful question. And I am very excited to answer it.
You want more time?
I need to think about it for just a second. Just because that is a very, very big question.
You could ask me something and I'll splurt random nonsense for 5 minutes to give you time to think about it if you need.
Yeah, let me ask you, Ryan. Do you think the new D&D movie that's coming out is going to be any good?
I think it's going to be good depending on how you look at it. Because obviously, like, again, I prefer the more, like, kind of, serious leaning sides of D&D. It doesn't need to be a soap opera by any means, but, like, when I look back at, like, I think we had this conversation, like, and this is going to be very controversial to, like, all of our D&D people listening, but, like, The Legend of Vox Machina came out on Amazon Prime. I did not care for the series because I felt like they took this form of story that, like, one episode's like 4.5 hours, and they took these arcs and they, concentrated them into, like, these 30-minute, like, sections of the stories, which then meant, like, okay, well, how do we define this character? Okay, well, we can't define them as well as they did in D&D because, they had 300 some hours to spend making the character. So what do? We basically make them kind of a caricature, a cartoon character of who they were.
Yeah.
Which, I'm not saying they got, like, those characterizations wrong, but I think to narrow it down to that was a disservice of the character. And, because, like, big stupid Grog, like, there's way more to Grog than him just being this, like, dumb loaf who loves to, like, eat and drink, Because, like, York is someone who, again, we went in with a lot of, like, comedic relief, and he is also someone who likes to, like, eat and drink. But if that's how someone, like, actually defined York and characterized him as, I'd feel very sad that that's, like, what they took away from the character, and that's what they chose to focus on,
Yeah.
And so, for D&D, I think making it this just kind of, like, silly adventure and, embracing that, because there's nothing wrong with a campaign that's just very silly in nature. There's nothing wrong with that. And so I think if people are going into this movie just being like, you know what, they're going to use the D&D name, but they're going to tell just, like, this fun adventuring story that's going to capture the magic of just kind of, like, laughing and playing with your friends, not necessarily at the table, but just kind of envisioning that and just kind of leaning into that, I think it can be a fun movie. Do I think it's going to be like this 10 out of 10 film? Oh, God, absolutely not. There's no chance in hell. But, one of my favorite movies of all time, The A-Team, starring Liam Neeson. What a fantastic movie. Why? Because it knew exactly what it was. It was a fun movie that was so ludicrous and knew that. And they embraced it. And you know what? I firmly believe that all those actors went to work every day being like, I can't believe we're getting paid for this. Because it looked like they were having so much fun just being there. And I hope that that's what I get from D&D. Is I hope I watch it and I'm just like, these guys look like they're having fun.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, D&D's a game. And you know what? If they just choose to represent the we're having fun side of the silly adventure, I think that's going to be okay. I will have no problem with that.
Same. I would agree with you.
It's not going to be this, like, tearjerker, oh my God, we're getting the character backstory payoff. Because obviously, like, I don't even know if they've announced how long the movie is, but I doubt it's going to be, like, a 3.5 hour epic by any means. I imagine it's going to be like 2 hours, maybe a little less, maybe a little over, like, at most. Yeah. It's not going to be a 2.5 to a 3 hour film. Like, I do not see that happening. No. But you know what? If you just go in looking to have fun, I think it has the potential to just be fun.
Yeah. No, and
don't expect it to follow the rules, and that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. Like, at that point,
some rules are meant to be ignored.
Yeah, especially in a movie.
Yes. Oh, but yeah, it's just, if this is an introduction for people to be like, oh, I'm more curious in, like, this world, and, like, I wonder what D&D's about, fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Because I think anything that's just used to, like, integrate people into, like, the community to where they're like, maybe I'll take a dip and I'll take a look into this. Great. I think that's fantastic, just if it helps people kind of learn more about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you need more time? Because I can keep going, but I think that's my overall summarized thoughts.
No, I think I got it.
All right, cool.
Thank you for that, and I do agree
with
everything you said. So, here's the thing. On Legend Keeper, actually, I did go through and I did this, and I just wanted to make sure that I had it here. Well, one of the things I did is I made, like, an overview of the world of Illica and, like, running my game. So this is less about theme and ideas and more about the root of why we do everything we do in the games. And it's actually a Matthew Colville quote that says, all of my games in one way or another hinge on player ambition. Not every player needs to want something, but if no one wants to build a castle, recover a famous artifact, join the Hawk Lords, start a Thieves Guild, then I sort of feel like we could just be playing a board game. And that is something I emphatically agree with. And so that's why a lot of the themes and ideas in my games aren't things that I set out and say, yes, this is what the story's about. So much of it is the players create their characters and what those characters want. And then the themes of the campaign shape themselves around that. And I try and reinforce those themes with the things that the characters want. So that's why with Isles, right, I would say that the main sort of themes, motifs, ideas is the idea of fate, the idea of destiny, and then the idea of corruption, and how all three of those things integrate with one another. Not just physical corruption like House Runs Hollow, but emotional corruption or spiritual corruption, like what happened with Eurydice, right? So I think that that's something super important to me with Isles. And then with SC, I would say that those three would be royalty, deceit, and discovery. Because the royalty thing is, granted, that's something that's come up more recently just with how people are deciding to take up their titles and deciding to hopefully wear them proudly soon. But not just royalty in the idea that like a king or a queen or an emperor or an empress, but like there are like folk heroes. Like I would consider folk heroes to a degree to be like royalty, you know, among common people.
Sure.
And so I think that everybody in that party has a degree of royalty to them in certain communities. A deceit, obviously, because there's so much lying that happens in that game.
Yes.
And discovery, because the entire reason that Salamander Coast happened is because I pitched 3 campaign ideas to the original group, which was Cameron, Felicity, Mark, Connor, and Evan. And I said, yeah, okay, I wasn't leaving anybody out there. I pitched it to them and I said, hey, here's 3 ideas. We could either do this, this, or this. And one of those ideas was there's an entire northern part to this continent that I've never done anything with. It would be a long campaign and all of you would be responsible for world building the broad strokes of that northern part of that continent. And then throughout the campaign, you would explore that place and get to know those peoples and those cultures throughout your time there. And they were like, yeah, that sounds amazing. So they made, right, Evan and Felicity made the nation of Bella Clara and its plutocracy. Felicity decided to put Bromsgrove where it was and make it such an important city. Building off of an old player character, not that she had, but that she had adventured with. Cameron and Mark made the nation of, or the territory of Jormungandry with the Council of Yggdrasil and Fjardeleth, right? They're the ones who decided how that place works, what it looks like, the inspiration of Norse culture, and the embracing of Norse mythology. And then Connor made Loshar and the 3 kingdoms of Atarashi, those 3 island nations. And all of these places beg to be discovered because there's so much rich lore that they made themselves. And there's nothing sweeter as a player than being able to, you know, bite into a proverbial apple that, you know, you created. And that you had such a big impact in its origin. And, you know, I can always tell whenever we're in a place that belongs to a player that they really care about it, you know. And even though Felicity came up with the broad strokes of Bromsgrove, any time that we were in Bromsgrove and we got to do a Carasilla and Morwood place thing, I could tell you and Gemma would light up, right? When you were meeting the, I forget his name, but the Minotaur, Thrash, yeah. When you were meeting Thrash, or when you went to the dress shop. I want to say his name was Kyrian, but I feel like that's not right. Morwin's.
Yeah, no, oh my gosh. Gemma's gonna kill me. Naylin?
Naylin?
Neelan.
Neelan?
Something like that.
Neelan, okay. Regardless, right?
No, it's Kaelin.
It's Kaelin? Oh, okay, all right. Kaelin. Going there and being able to interact with him and how much fun that was for not just you, but also Gemma, right? That's the stuff. Discovering the things that you made, but rediscovering them as a player, or as the character, not as the player, right? Because you and Gemma knew that he was there. Yeah. But then rediscovering it as the character is so much fun. So yeah. Boom. Whew, that was a tough one.
I mean,
that was a good question.
I will say I've really enjoyed, because like I've always been kind of more of like the, I don't know, just like I'm excited to like see like what the DM has made and like discovered. But I think that's probably been my favorite part of Yorick, is coming up with like the whole culture of like House and Scene and seeing how that's like been really reflected into the character. Because like that's what you said. You were just like, yeah, like with what you want, I think being like from Macavia could work, but I'm just giving you permission to create like this whole subset of like a culture of people from there, and you can just do what you want with it, and I'll just, approve it, or if there are any issues, we can work that out together. And I was like, okay, like I don't know, like I'll try, and like I sent you like multiple paragraphs of things, and you were just like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, and I
didn't go too overboard, but
no, you're totally good. Like I read it and I loved it. I was like, "This is awesome," and I love doing that. I love, especially with players that I trust, giving them the opportunity to just run with it. Do what you want, what you bought, and
hell yeah,
yeah, and you did it, and I loved it.
I think both campaigns are in just such a good and interesting spot now, and I'm just so looking forward to seeing like what happens with them and where they're going moving forward, and how all the characters are developing and how they're going to respond to the challenges before them. Because I mean, like obviously, there's always kind of a growing threat, but I feel like we're getting to the point of like we're going to hit that, like, for lack of a better term, like a point of no return here soon. Like there's going to become a point where, have we been like thorns in the Dark One's side? Yes. I think we're going to upgrade ourselves to real problem here real soon.
Oh, yeah, because, like, guys have been messing around for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm thinking, by the time that Act 3 ends, that's when it really... That's when we go into Phase 4 of the MCU, and it's not good. It's not good for anybody.
It's not good.
No, it's not good for anybody. Oh, God.
Well, anyways, Joe, that's all I have for you today. I just kind of wanted to talk with you since we've been back for a few months, kind of see how you were feeling about things, because I think both campaigns are in a great spot.
Oh, no, I would agree with you. I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah. And
I was yawning as I said that, but I am.
Yeah, it sounded very sincere, but that's okay. But yeah, just thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you on Roll Call, especially with this new format that we're going to be trying out and doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. And just, as always, thanks for being a good DM, good friend, good all that. So, thanks again for all that.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, for everyone here, thank you for listening. Tune in on Tuesday for the next session of Salamander Coast. On Wednesday, we're going to have a new episode of Evrand placed on the YouTube. And tune in next week on Saturday for the continuation of Isles of Iverion. And have an excellent rest of your days, guys, and we'll catch you next time.
Next time.
See ya!